Hello, Void. Yeah, it's still dark. I just haven't gotten around to getting a maintenance guy in here. Our light fixture's well above my ability to reach and safely install, so gonna have to be dealing with poor lighting for at least the foreseeable future. Well, I meant to be actually doing a few more reviews over the course of this month, especially since I'm trying to do a theme month, but work's been kicking my ass and social obligations have been rearing, so hopefully I'll get to as many movies as I am wanting to. I don't know if I will, but we're going to give it the old college try. So, last time I spoke of Resident Evil Damnation, with the full intention of then proceeding to the other Resident Evil CG movie I have, Resident Evil Degeneration. But I didn't. Instead, I just went straight to Resident Evil. As today I was going to put it in, and then started debating maybe switching gears and watching something completely unrelated to the Resident Evil series. But this one always kind of has a draw for me. It's kind of an old favorite. I know objectively it's not the best adaptation, but the movie's just fun. And reading a little bit more into it, I can kind of understand why fans of the game don't really care for the series. But I've only played a handful of them myself, and while I am relatively familiar with the lore, I am more of a casual fan than anything diehard, so I just enjoy this as a over-the-top action horror series. And for me, for the most part, the whole series, for what I've seen of it, I haven't seen all of them yet, they're at least passable to enjoyable. And the original one, Resident Evil, I really did like. I've always liked this one. Now, I did a little looking into it, and apparently the writer-director, I think he was also a writer, I believe, yes, Paul W.S. Anderson, apparently his script originally wasn't actually meant for it to be a Resident Evil adaptation, which is why this is so off base from what people were expecting a Resident Evil movie to be. But they had been kicking around different scripts and options to do a Resident Evil movie for some time. And they found his script, which was pretty much a blatant ripoff of Resident Evil, so they just made a few tweaks and made it work. Which is also why none of the characters from the games, other than a few villain references, show up in this one. Later installments will get most of the cast appearing in one way, shape, or form, but this one, they went with their essentially over-the-top OC, Alice, who isn't even named in the first one. I never really realized that. I mean, I've been seeing enough of the movies by now that she's very well established, but the original one here, Milla Jovovich's character, never actually gets identified by name, except in the ending credits. Well, now, a lot of people don't really care for the character of Alice. I've never had a problem with her. Yeah, she's not the most emotive, but watching her kick ass is always enjoyable to me, so I'm okay with Alice. Even as she gets more over the top, powerful, crazy, and ridiculous, I'm lenient on it. I forgive it. So, plot. Then deep beneath Raccoon City exists the Hive, which is the Umbrella Corporation's super secret research facility that is where they research all their less than legal things, including bioweapons, viral weapons, and anything military related. The AI that controls this base, the Red Queen, well, after there's a contaminant breach, she locks the place down and kills everyone inside. And we pick up with a special ops team trying to infiltrate, figure out what happened, and shut down the Red Queen. And then as they make their way along, once they shut her down, all the doors unlock, and now they have to deal with everything that's unleashed as the deadly T virus is spreading amongst things, reanimating the dead. On their way in, our main character Alice she was originally the guardian of an above-ground emergency exit entrance front, but due to the self-defense systems, she's essentially been knocked out and has amnesia. So she's kind of works for then her slow realization of memories of things, as well as having to be explained things to, helps the audience get up to speed pretty quick. You really need no familiarity with the Resident Evil series in general to go into this movie. It keeps you up pretty well. And so there's a lot of things I do like about this one, particularly the opening scenes of how the virus is getting out. They do quite well and entertainingly. It's really stylistic how a lot of that is handled, from just the way shots are framed to how certain things just are slowly filled in as you go along for it. As well as, seeing the horrors of people reacting to the base shutting down. Then when you quick cut to, Alice coming to and trying to piece things together, it doesn't exactly hold your hand, but it lets you kind of fill in some of the blanks as she tries to figure out who she is, and it does a good job letting you know without her just saying that she doesn't know or have any memory. It slowly pieces you into things, and I think that works. But otherwise, once things get going, it becomes more of a standard action horror zombie movie. But I was okay with it. It's fun, and while the characters aren't the best written at times, the energy is up there, and the cast is good, so it holds things together. Michelle Rodriguez is always a favorite of mine, so glad to see her in anything, and she's clearly having fun in this one. So, things that don't work quite so well. Holy 2002 CG. Wow. That's not working here. Unfortunately, the zombie effects aren't the greatest, and they try to do some cool things with having pieces of their head blown off and still them coming at you. But the CG on it is not good. It does look like the video game is meshing with reality. It does look like something you should be seeing in the game and not in a live action adaptation. That isn't really... No, it isn't working. And the more egregious problem is the liquor. The liquor is what they dubbed as a early experiment. It's a bioweapon monster that's created from the T-virus. And this is a CG monstrosity. It looks... the design of the monster is cool, but you get that from the games. The execution of the CG is not good. That said, after it kills its first victim and mutates, then they start kind of doing a back and forth of when it's moving around quickly, it's CG, but if it's in one spot, they are actually using practical effects monster for it. And now that looks okay. So, when it goes CG, it's not good. It can be forgiven with the Red Queen herself, as she is a hologram that's supposed to be computer generated, so we can forgive the Red Queen. And I will say the Red Queen's made infinitely more unsettling by being voiced by what looks like a 6-year-old kid. So she's fine. Especially with this monotone British child speaking through her. But the CG otherwise, no, not working. But the movie itself does work very well for me. This was a solid 4 MacGuffins. I know it's not the greatest adaptation, but it does get the general feel of some of the game. How I suppose the games are more is more survival horror, while this is more action horror. But the setup of the corporation, and I wish they would have spent more time in the mansion that factors into Resident Evil and Resident Evil Zero for the games, rather than just having it being more of a nod at the front. But the general feel of the Undead Outbreak, it feels like something fun. Then it gets the spirit of the games. I say I would say, even if the tone isn't quite there. But it's its own tone, and it's a fun one, so I'm okay with it. There are worse adaptations, and we'll get to some of them later in the month, provided I have time. There's a lot of these. I was just making a list of all the ones that I have in my personal collection. There's a good amount here. And I don't even have nearly everything I'd like to. And we're going to ride a lot of the Resident Evil series. I don't know if I'm going to do them all sequentially or right in a row. I might throw a few other things in there just to break it up a little bit. But I'm looking forward to actually watching them in kind of a closer order. I do own all of them now, so I will try to feature all of them. But usually months or years or go by between when I actually see them. Like, I only recently got, I think, the fourth or... No, it's going to be the fifth one. I think there's 6 of these fuckers. The fifth one about a year ago, and it was many years after it came out, so I finally saw it with about 2 or 3 years since I watched the rest of them, so I followed it, sort of, but how the connections were really lost on me. And now I do have finally got the final chapter. I've never seen that one. I'm looking forward to finally putting this whole series to rest. Just in time for the reboot. Well, burn that bridge when we get there. Have a good night.